Okay, looks like we're finally up and running. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm using my microphone here, so it should be able to catch things. Welcome to my Facebook Live reading of Usurper, Book 2 in my Guide in the Sword trilogy. This cover done by Carter Reed, the famous Carter Reed of Zombie Nation. He does great work. You can see him at many events throughout the year, and he's done a couple of my covers, so I appreciate him, and one of the local artists that I depend on for excellent work. So Usurper is book 2 in my series, which is called The Guide in the Sword. There are things like this in it. Now this is simply just a great frickin' machete, right? But I have people with swords like crazy in these books. There's a lot of blade work. I've studied blade work a little bit myself. I'd love to have done a lot more of it. I've watched a lot of videos of folks who seem to really know what they're doing. Martial arts like that have always been something I love. So buckle up for Usurper. So let me give you a quick rundown of the first book, Laconai. It's really quick. Laconai is about a kid who wakes up, or he discovers some bandits who are about to raid his village. Turns out they're there to slaughter his village. They leave him for dead. And he decides to cross the continent to kill his king because he's learned that the king was the person who sent the bandits to do this. In so doing, he discovers that there's more to his own family's origins that he realizes. And in Usurper, he discovers the full truth about his own origins. At least he thinks he does. There's more in the last book, Red Prince. This book is underappreciated, though. It's so much fun. It's nice and thick. It's got a great cover that's glossy. It's got pages like crazy here, guys. So here you have Usurper Chapter 1. Get ready. Oh, by the way, Laconai ends with a bit of a, not quite a cliffhanger, more of a cliff faller. Laconai leaps off a large wall and crashes down a mountainside, almost to his death, but is picked up by some compatriots. And so that's all I'm going to say. So go get a book. All my books are on sale right now out of a desire to help people have an entertaining time during this COVID crisis, as it were. One thing that'll be helpful to you if you just pick up this book, which is fine if you want to, but I mean, that'd be weird, is that in all of my series, I have a previously in this case, Laconai. Just like on those TV shows, previously in The Expanse or Justified or whatever. Yeah, those are some great shows. Okay, so Chapter 1, Hunting. Oh, by the way, check out this rad chapter heading. Isn't that rad? I believe I had Mikey Brooks do that for me. He's such a stud. Okay, here we go. Okay, Chapter 1 of Usurper. We have no time for this. Laconai pushed to his feet, wincing at the twinge in his ankle. The wound is healing fine. Ree glared at him. You had an arrow sticking through your shoulder. It splintered inside you as you fell down a mountain. It's not fine. She glanced back at Cho. Bring the light closer. The former dog boy ducked respectfully and lifted the torch. Yes, princess. Laconai didn't try to hide his approval. They were in the middle of a wide, forested stretch of nothing. Gnarled and straight tree trunks and deep green leaves and brush that snagged the trousers were all he could see. What was Ree supposed to be the princess of out here? Cho, Ree said as she prodded at Laconai's shoulder. Laconai did his best to breathe through the pain of her searching fingers, but still hissed as she found a tender spot. Stop calling me princess. The last thing we need is for anyone out here to figure out who I am. Now, I haven't practiced voices for this, by the way, so it's going to be rough. Okay. Alrona, Alrona strode into the clearing, her handmade bow across her chest and bag slung across the opposite way. She carried a spear she had fashioned out of a straight branch and flint that she had broken into a sharp shard. Ree, leave my brother. He's fine. She scanned the clearing they had made camp in the previous night. Every second we sit and act like children, Mulgar and his murderers get further away. That should be farther, and the word is farther. It's well edited. And closer to the sword, Laconai added. We can't allow him to gain power with the two objects. He took Ree's small hand gently. He met her eyes. It's healing well. It will do well to be exposed to the air today, and we waste too much time. But you'll get a scar, Ree grimaced. Laconai snorted and reached with his uninjured arm for the bow he had made, setting it across his chest. I'll add it to the collection. The early sun was an indistinct glow behind clouds which hung heavy and low beyond the thick growth of trees. He soaked in the quiet that the clouds brought, trying to connect with the ground and center. His right foot would not set flat on the dirt, making it impossible to complete his connection. Gritting his teeth in frustration, Lakonai tried to ignore the empty ache where he should be feeling himself center. He addressed the group. "Get your things." Lakonai put his back to the rising sun and led the way out of the clearing. He half reached for the pouch he had carried across his king's land in search of his sister, but it was gone from his fall off Zyronilx's wall, buried in the gravel and dirt of a mountain, probably covered in his blood. He forced himself to focus on the path ahead. Let's go. At least Alrona had retrieved his dagger when they'd found him on the mountainside. The sheath, unfortunately, had been nowhere in sight. That's what we call breadcrumbing. Within a few minutes, the rest of the group caught up. Cho led Rhee's rather useless horse, Titan. The enormous animal had to be led between trees and up rocky slopes, so it was useless to try to ride him. On the other hand, Gar, the dog, ranged all around, nose in the air, then to the ground, sometimes breaking into a yapping run. Alrona drew up next to Lakonai. "They're slowing us down." In the 2 weeks since they had been heading west, she had regained some of the weight she'd lost while a slave. But what had once been young, soft features were now hard muscles and sharp angles. Lakonai picked up the pace, ignoring the slowly building pain in his ankle. "They are, but we can't leave them." "Why not?" Alrona's eyes blazed. "We don't need them. We need to find and kill Molgar and Shilu." "Rhee and Cho would be hopeless out here," Lakonai said. "Neither of them has ever spent any real time outside of Zyronilxa. They would starve. Worse, they wouldn't know how to defend themselves if a passing thief decided to steal Titan." "Then let them learn like we had to," Alrona said. "If they can't survive, they don't deserve to." Alrona's fury was practically baking Lakonai with its heat. That's not going to happen. He checked on the two behind them. Cho was struggling to keep hold of Titan, who obviously had no desire to spend another day getting his hooves caught on roots and bushes. Rhee was strolling as if she were on a walk, her attention on anything but the path ahead. Besides, Rhee is family. "I know that," Alrona looked at Rhee. "Not that there's any family resemblance." "The red hair?" Lakonai said. The truth was that Rhee was nearly opposite to Alrona in physical appearance. Size, hair color, face shape, even her eyes were a lighter color. "No, she's too short." True. Lakonai held a branch out of the way as they walked. He longed to run, to have his strength back so that he could move faster, doing the dance with the forest as he chased down Molgar to spill his blood for justice. But he couldn't even center. The fall off the city wall and his injuries had left him too broken. Unable to center, he felt incomplete. He couldn't find that calm he had grown used to reaching for, that connection with the earth and trees and everything around him. "But yes," Alrona broke into his thoughts, "she also has the red hair. Nothing about her looks like us." "I did see her father, the king," Lakonai recalled. "He looked a lot like father." This talk of family reminded him of the conversation they'd had the previous night, and of Cho's shock at learning that Lakonai, a former dog boy, was cousin to the princess of the land of Zyron, the land Molgar sought to rule by adding the sword of Newell to his collection. Lakonai flashed back to the last time he'd seen the evil man, in the temple in Zyronilxa, where Lakonai had also killed Gimno. One of the last things Gimno had said, in the moment the other Halkeen had pulled Alrona out of the throne room, returned to him, as it often had since that day. Something about another brother. "I know you don't think it's possible after all these years, but I heard them say it. I think Lamorin's alive." "I know," Alrona said, "but you're young and idealistic." She snorted. "Why would they have him? And why would they keep him this long?" Which is where the conversation had ended last night. Lakonai stepped over a gnarled root. "I've been thinking about it." They came to a stream that wasn't narrow enough to simply jump across. Alrona used her spear to find a shallow spot, and they crossed, splashing through the cool mountain water. Lakonai followed her trail. Maybe Lamorin said something that got their attention. "It's only a maybe." Alrona threw a glare over her shoulder at the others. "Move faster or we will leave you behind." "You wouldn't," Rhee called back, then in a less pompous voice. "I'm trying." "Try harder," Alrona said. "It might be a maybe." Lakonai knew he was reaching. but he couldn't deny the hope that sprang up every time he remembered what Gimno had said. But I know what I heard. Gimno said they didn't need to keep this brother, me, that they had another one. That has to be Lamorin. They could be referring to a brother from a temple somewhere, Alrona said. She slipped between two trees, walking faster and getting ahead by several paces. That's not what he meant. Laconai fell silent at Alrona's sharp hand gesture. Quiet! Alrona crouched and waved to get Cho and Ree's attention. You two, stay quiet and get that dog. What is it? Ree said far too loudly. Laconai darted back to Ree and Cho. Quiet! He didn't know what caused Alrona to act this way, but he trusted her. And it wasn't as if his senses were what they used to be. That's weird. It's a weird sentence. He snapped his fingers and crouched, patting one knee. Gar came running. Cho wrapped a leather strap around the dog's muscled neck. Laconai bent close to Cho. Keep him silent. What's going on? Cho asked. I think Alrona saw something. Laconai met his eyes. Stay here. You're not going without us, reclaimed Titan's rope from Cho. Laconai took her hand. Alrona saw something. Please, wait here for a moment. He jogged back to Alrona, who had gone a little farther ahead and was now crouching and peering around a thick tree trunk. People! Alrona lifted her spear. A village. Easing himself to a knee, and trying not to wince at the pains in his body, Laconai parted the dense, thickly leaved branches of a bush. Far off in the distance, only visible because of several breaks in the trees, rose a structure made entirely of downed trees. From at least 200 paces away, it was clearly visible, breaking up the patternless trees of the forest. Laconai gaped. It's huge. I think it's all trees, Alrona said. I can't see any stone in those walls from here. Laconai! Ree's voice carried far too loudly in the forest. Hush! Alrona called back in a harsh whisper. We are approaching something. A building. Laconai peered through the trees, trying to get a better look. For a moment, leaning on a tree trunk, breathing carefully, his center almost slid into place. It slipped away. What is wrong with me? Somebody must have built it, but who? Cho spoke in a dry voice. Probably these people who have spears pointed at us. Dun dun dun. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. Yeah, I like to end chapters on an action high. Just some either a dialogue twist, a dialogue emotional height, or an action height, or kind of a hey, something unexpected happened, and here's a quick reaction, and then we go on. So that helps to keep, I think, pages turning, which is kind of the whole idea. I hope you've enjoyed this first chapter of Usurper. Let me know if you want to hear the next chapter the next time I do this, which would maybe be tomorrow. You know, we're all stuck at home, having an opportunity to study, to learn, to read, to become better people, to become closer as families, to become better family members. And so I thought, why not offer some story to entertain in your downtime? So enjoy. Stay home, guys. Stay home. It's not over yet, but it'll be over and all will be well. Thanks for tuning in. Take it easy, guys. Bye. Learn how to stop this. I got to stop this thing. How do you do it? There's the big red button. I'm ending live video. Peace out.